Welcome to the basketball party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Last week we were in panic mode, and the Wolves go on the West Coast, and what do? They rattle off big wins. We'll discuss it all, plus All-Star Weekend and Valentine's on today's Minnesota basketball party.
This is Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Timberwolves talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota basketball party on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Wolves talk every Wednesday here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's the Minnesota basketball party with some of your favorite Wolves analysts around. I'm Sam Ekstrom. You'll meet the rest of the crew in a moment. We're so glad you're with us today on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Please give us a subscription and check us out perhaps on the 24/7 YouTube live stream as well. Also hear us on the Locked On Wolves audio feed, where you can also get daily Wolves podcasts, Locked On Wolves with Ben Beacon. But let's meet our team with our opening tip. Take it away, Ben.
I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. We'll talk today a little bit about the last two Wolves wins in LA against the Clippers Monday and against Portland on Tuesday, and how they won each of those games in pretty different fashion. And I thought they were in some ways equally, maybe not equally, nearly as impressive as one another.
I'm Jack Borman, editor-in-chief at Canis Hoopus, co-host of the Locked On Wolves postcast with my man Luke Inman. And I'll be talking a little bit about why I think that Clippers game from a couple nights ago should give you more hope in the Timberwolves postseason prospects than any game that we've seen so far from this team this season.
Reggie Wilson, KARE11. And, I still think Wolves fans are just a little timid to go all in on this team. And I think that it's okay. It's okay, especially Sam Ekstrom's take from last week. He's been panicked, but it might be good reason for everybody to just calm down a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Reggie, and thank you, everybody. It's good to have you on the panel today. I have been panicking, and last week I was in full panic mode. I might have even used the F word, frauds, about this team after their collapse against the Bulls.
Oh, you did. You did.
I don't know if there's record of that. That might have been your imagination.
Let's check the tape.
But the response to our show, which I'm sure they all listen to, they go out and they toy with Milwaukee, who is undermanned. Then they take on a full-strength Clippers team. And as Jack alluded to, maybe the most impressive win of the year. There's been a lot of moments where we've said that, so don't want to get too caught in recency bias, but there are good wins where it comes down to the wire and you duke it out and you hit that shot at the end. And then there are good wins where you are just, you're banking in threes at the end because you're so comfortable in your victory. I mean, they were having their way with the Clippers, driving dunks, three-point shots, shut down defense. Considering the opponent and the stage and the health of the Clippers on that night, that felt like the newest best win of the year. And the Wolves followed it up, not by stubbing their toe, but by putting together another dominant fourth quarter, another game where we saw Luka Garza at the end and the end of the bench getting playing time as they beat Portland last night, 121-109. So let's go to Ben Beacon. These last two wins really go a long way towards shaping how we view the Wolves heading into the All-Star break.
Yeah, and I mentioned this in the open. I like the how similar but different the two wins were. So the Clippers win, well, it wasn't a wire-to-wire win. They were actually down at halftime by 4 points. And I think maybe that's what's most impressive is that this wasn't a, hey, we just crushed them from the jump and they gave up. And it wasn't a last second where there's some good fortune, to win a close game late. There always is. This was more of a flip of what we've seen, right? Them losing to a bad team after having a big lead late. They were down at halftime, came out, had a monster third quarter on both ends of the floor, and then still blew them out and put them away after trailing at halftime. So it was almost like if you could rank the different types of wins, like this is right up there with a close game against a good team, because it was a close game, and then they just said, no, we're gonna put this thing away in the second half. You're gonna go small, and we're gonna crush you. And so Monday's win was all about size, length, the defense, and Anthony Edwards, a phenomenal ant game in which he missed 10 3-point attempts. And the only one he made was an intentional bank in garbage time, basically. It was like, it was, and also I'll draw like comparison to Monday and Tuesday when it comes to Ant. Like Monday was all about Ant's non-scoring game. And yes, he scored points, but it was in the paint. I think all of his makes except for that one, or basically all of his makes were twos except for that one banked in three. And he had like, I think 8 assists to no turnovers. And then Tuesday against Portland, he scores 41, takes 27 shots. Nobody else on the team shoots the ball more than 7 times, which is except for Gobert. I think Gobert had 10 attempts. Nobody else shoots it more than 7 times. So Gobert shoots at 10. Ant has 27 field goal attempts. He drops 41. He only has 2 assists. But I thought his decision-making was still good on Tuesday. So you had the Ant distribution facilitation game on Monday, and then you had the Ant scoring game on Tuesday. And both wins were very impressive. In addition to Ant's play on Tuesday, you also had, the depth showing up, like a poor game from McDaniels, a foul trouble laden game from Cat, a kind of meh game from Conley. But you had Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker both play extremely well on Tuesday. And when it comes to Portland, like second half of back-to-back on the road, but also something I talked about on today's Locked On Wolves, like when you're the best, you're going to get other teams' best. And Portland has a lot of talent. Like there's probably 4 rotation guys on that team that or 4 starters on that team that have been rotation guys or could be rotation guys on a playoff team. So they have talent, even though they're a bad team. And of course, you're going to get their best shot. So I thought both games were very impressive and for different reasons. And, a really, really nice, like, hopefully no letdown on Thursday leading into the All-Star break, but a really nice last 3 games when a week ago we were a bit concerned, frankly, coming off that Bulls loss.
Yeah, I thought last night's win was the antithesis of that Bulls game where you had the big lead and then you started slipping and the momentum got going in one direction. The shots started falling for Portland as they did Chicago, and the Wolves just couldn't stop that avalanche against the Bulls. But in the fourth quarter, they flipped the switch and they went from down 2 to up 20 in the blink of an eye. I think it was a 26-7 run or 27-6 run that ultimately decided it. Jack, we were on the air like 9 hours ago doing the Locked On Wolves postcast. Let's hear that opinion again from you about last night and your Clippers opinion.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the Clippers game. I mean, or just the last 2 games in general, also just an overarching thing. Timberwolves have 57 assists and 15 turnovers. The assist to turnover ratio of 3.8. Season long is 1.36. So a huge improvement in that department is certainly going to help over those 2 games. But with the Clippers game specifically, their defense was insane. I mean, before garbage time, they had a defensive rating of 104.5. For the record, the Timberwolves had the best defensive rating in the league this year at just under 109. So that's how much better they were than even their season-long top-ranked defense. To hold 4 Hall of Famers to 64 points on 21 of 57 shooting, 37%, all 4, Kawhi, PG, Harden, Russ, all shot less than 50%. Was incredible. And then you have a 40-19 just thrashing in that third quarter where you made all of those guys look pretty helpless on the offensive end of the floor. And I think that was what was most impressive, right? We've seen this Clippers team pretty much just buzzsaw their way through everyone the last month, 6 weeks or so with, the league's top ranked offense. And they looked like they just didn't want to attack this Wolves defense that had length, that had size and physicality, everything that you look for in a top break defense. And then on the other end of the floor offensively, I mean, the Clippers threw everything at them. This had a playoff game type feel in that first half because Ty Lue in the first quarter threw a high wall, a 2-3 zone, a 3-2 zone, a box and 1 on Cat. He threw all those things at the Wolves, and all the Timberwolves kept doing was just moving the ball. They cut really well. They finished inside. They had 33 assists on 46 field goals and shot 54% against, again, a top 5 defense in the NBA. And Rudy Gobert was awesome, just totally controlled inside the arc. The Wolves shot nearly 70% on twos and held the Clippers to 45% on twos, which is pretty impressive. So when you wrap all that together, and it was just kind of the best of what they can do on both ends of the floor, even without shooting, threes all that well. They've been number 2 behind the Clippers in 3-point percentage and weren't that good from 3, but still found a way to dominate this game, which is highly impressive. And then when that Blazers game, I was really impressed that, again, another night where they didn't have their best offensive game, but they found a way to score. They scored a season high 30 points at the free throw line. and their bench was really important. 44 points. They ranked 23rd in the league this year in bench scoring at 32 points a game. So to get above that for the I think second time in 3 games is pretty big. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, man, 4 threes in that fourth quarter was huge. And then Kyle Anderson has been awesome as well. He's got 20 assists and 3 turnovers since the trade deadline. Had 8 assists, no turnovers last night, and has looked way more comfortable since that trade deadline on Thursday has passed. So there's no question that he's been a different guy, and I think he's going to be really important to how this team can play in the playoffs. Because if you get really good Kyle Anderson, like that we saw last season, that was so important and that was a fan favorite. I know that might be hard to believe given how we've seen fans react to his play this year, but he's been really, really important to this team for the last year and change, and he's going to be really important once again, especially if he can continue this really strong play.
Yeah, I think Anderson's gotten back to what he does. I think he had a really bad stretch of inefficient offense. I think that ship has been righted a little bit, and that's good to see. Reggie Wilson, your thoughts on this West Coast success?
So it's like my eyes couldn't believe it. Like they were just absolutely just whooping the Clippers 72-47, and Jack said 40-19 in the third. Like that's insane. And then to hold Kawhi, PG, and Harden to under 20 points each is ridiculous. Like this team is one of the favorites to come out of the West, and everybody's been talking about them. And I think that was an emphatic statement win from the Wolves, just kind of putting the league on notice. Like, hey, I know everybody wants to fall in love with the Nuggets because they're the defending champs. Everybody wants to talk about the star power in LA with both teams. But hello, us up here in Minnesota where it's not so cold like it usually is this time of year. Like, you got to come see us. You got to play us. And I think that was a very encouraging thing to see if you're a Timberwolves fan. But it's so funny because I feel like the Timberwolves fans are still just like waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like I talk to different people, even in my building, and they're like, "Oh, you think the Timberwolves are going to do something?" I just don't know. It's been so long since they've. I'm like, "Yep, 2004. Yep, I keep hearing about that." And I had a guy on Twitter after the first quarter just say like, "Yeah, this Wolves team is so undisciplined. They don't have what it takes to make it out of the first round." And I'm like, "Dang, like you're still giving that take from this version of the Wolves that you're seeing." And I think, for all those who may have panicked, Sam Ekstrom, and others out there who just don't want to truly buy in, I get it. Look, you guys have been through a lot, not just with the Wolves, but with all the other Minnesota sports teams. So I am not telling you how to feel, okay? But what I will say is what's encouraging about what the Timberwolves are doing is Cat came out 3 fouls in the first quarter last night. Just totally not a part of it. But then it's like, oh, dang, Ant's going to have one of those nights. And he scores 41. But here's the luxury for the Wolves, and this is something that I've brought up in the past. And Jack brought up slow-mo, and that's huge. Man, we cannot say enough about Naz Reid and Nah. I think the crazy part is Cat gets in foul trouble, and me watching the game, I'm not worried. I'm like, oh, they're just going to put Naz in, and Naz is going to do what he does. And it's like he doesn't do the same things that Cat does, but like he can come in there and do his thing and still be as efficient and not allow the Timberwolves to miss a step with Cat out of the game. And I saw this tweet from Sam Quinn from CBS Sports, and he said the Timberwolves have 2 bench guys in Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker that could legitimately play 30-plus minutes on any other top 6 playoff teams. He said Phoenix would trade 30 more Horcrux swaps for a Nah caliber 3-and-D, and that's really what you see. Like Nah's been playing out of his mind. It's like he got the contract. which means like the team has full confidence in his ability. And that just seemed to like unlock a next level in him. Like he was playing pretty good down the stretch last year and into the playoffs, but like this just kind of seemed to like up it even more for him. And he's really comfortable out there. And he's a guy like Jaden McDaniels didn't score a point last night, but then you go to Nah, and Nah's going out there scoring 18, and you're like, all right, it's cool. Plus 22 with him on the floor. Like, that's the reason why, you know, even if you're a little scared because it is Minnesota sports, it's like that kind of gives you a little bit of hope that this Timberwolves team is different.
Yeah, like for those of us that have wives or significant others, they might go shopping and they might try to find a deal and say, hey, like, honey, I got this great Lulu dupe. Right? Like you find some fashionable item of clothing that looks and feels just like the expensive name brand. That's Nah with Jaden. Like Nah is Jaden Light coming off the bench. He's the Jaden dupe, and he's a really high-end dupe. It's pretty nice. And I think it's really solid when it makes me feel better. My panicking self feels better about the awful losses when I see this team showing up when it needs to show up. And it routinely does this. They play the Clippers. They win both those games. They go to OKC on the road after losing at home to them. They win that game. They go to Boston undermanned, and they should have won that game. There's an asterisk next to that loss for me. That's basically a win. So I do rest easier knowing that, because in the playoffs, all those games are going to feel big, and this team knows when to show up for those big games. Plenty more to come on the Minnesota Basketball Party, including how many Morrises can the Wolves acquire? That's next. You're on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And we're brought to you today by Hungry Root. The team at Hungry Root just sent me a new box of yummy stuff. I gotta tell you, it is delicious, because grocery shopping, meal planning, that can be challenging. You've got a job, you got kids, it's doubly challenging. If this applies to you, it certainly applies to me. Tell your friends about Hungry Root, because it can help you with your particular lifestyle and diet. So the days are getting longer now. There's a little more daylight. Customers can save 5 hours per week using Hungry Root without the stress of grocery and meal planning. You can use that extra time. Get outside, enjoy some fresh air, do something else with your life, be more productive. You also save money in addition to that time that you save. You reduce food waste. Hungry Root can help save up to 30% on food waste each week. And you get a special discount with a code, 40% off and free veggies for life. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On NBA listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. HungryRoot.com/locked on. 40% off your first delivery, free veggies. One more time. HungryRoot.com/locked on. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. All right, since our last show, Nostradamus there, Jack Borman, he predicted Monte Morris correctly. Applause for Jack. Good call. Good call. Very nice. The Wolves got, I think later that day, actually, the Wolves traded for Monte Morris a week ago today. He's played in 2 games, hasn't really shown us yet what he can do, and I'm withholding judgment until he's here for a couple weeks. Let's get out of the All-Star break. Let's get him in the offense. Let's get him in better shape before we really see what he's about. But also on the Pat Bev podcast, rumors, speculation that Marcus Morris is also headed to Minnesota. So, Jack, because you got the prediction right last week, we'll give you the first word. First on Monty, and then what role does Marcus play, the 34-year-old veteran, if he joins the Timberwolves as well in a buyout situation?
Yeah, for sure. I think starting with Monte, the most important thing for him is that he's played in 8 playoff series. He's played 48 playoff games. He's been very proficient from shooting it beyond the arc in those series, and he's taken care of the ball, right? He would have the NBA record for highest assist to turnover ratio in a single season if it wasn't for a guy named Tyus Jones, who also broke the record in that same year. And he's been near the top of the league really since he's entered the league in assist to turnover ratio, and he's been north of 37.8% from 3 in each of the previous 5 seasons. And this one obviously has been derailed by by an injury at a right quad strain that caused him to miss the first 43 games of the year. So, the first game he played in Minnesota on Monday against the Clippers was the most he's played in a game all season. So you got to give him some grace. You need to give him 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month before you really, can have a more fully formed opinion of what he looks like in Minnesota, just because he's got to play his way into basketball shape. And it's pretty clear that his teammates don't fully understand what he's, capable of bringing on the offensive end. But he's going to give you 8, 10, 12 really consistent points a night scoring off the bench, in addition to just being a really good ball mover and a competitive defender in a team concept. And then with Marcus Morris Sr., he's gonna fit in really well. I think he's not going to play very much, but last night's game in Portland is a great example of how they could use a guy like Marcus Morris. He's a 40% catch and shoot guy from 3 the last 5 years. He can create his own shot and score in the mid-range and isolation, and he's really good at posting up smaller defenders. And so he would be a great floor spacing option on a night like last night where Karl gets in foul trouble. It kind of junks up the rotation. The offense really struggles in the second quarter because they don't have, this floor spacing 5 that can give you 25 points, 30 points a game on any given night. And so even him just scoring 6 or 7 points in a quarter like that would be so big for the Timberwolves offense. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to play in every single game. He's probably going to be a guy that you throw out there if Jaden gets in foul trouble, or Rudy or Nas or Karl gets in foul trouble. So it's really going to be more spot minutes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes a night in those situations. But another guy that you can throw out there in the playoffs, and that, he's 6'8", 225, is almost 6'11" wingspan. He's a really proficient post-up defender, can guard bigger 4s and smaller 5s. He's not great defending in space anymore, but he does rebound nicely. So kind of as a floor spacing 4, that can get his own bucket, which is going to be really important, and space the floor a lot better than Kyle Anderson, at least on nights when, that Anderson lack of spacing might be more problematic than other nights.
Reggie, your thoughts?
So yeah, I think them getting Monte Morris is huge. Just, it was interesting because in his first game with the Wolves, like, he made the 3 and then he came off the bench. He was just really like calm and cool, and it was so interesting just watching Jordan McLaughlin come out, because they did a timeout or whatever on the floor. And J-Mac's like, yeah, good job, bro. Yeah, great. And it's just so funny because it's like, yeah, he's looking at a guy that's probably going to be the reason why he doesn't get as many minutes as, he probably wanted to. I think J-Mac had like 4 minutes in the game last night. And so I think, as Jack said, as he continues to work his way back into playing shape and game form, I think, he'll be a really important piece. Like, he's a dude that can score in bunches, and also, he had a career high in assists with the Wizards as well. So he's a guy who can distribute out there as well. So just another like veteran presence who's been there before and who can help this team as they kind of go down the stretch. I think what I like about the Morrises potentially being acquired is because, like, I think at this point in Marcus Morris's career, like, I don't think you're going to rely on him for like his scoring ability per se, but I think, you can put him in there and get some good minutes from him. He's going to make pretty good decisions with the ball. But I think what is interesting is, like, there's so many times where when Mike Conley was out, everybody's like, yeah, they were missing that adult in the room. And we kind of see some of the bad things that kind of happen when a young team is out there just kind of on vibes and not really as disciplined as maybe they should be. Well, this kind of gives them a little bit more of a presence veteran-wise. And I think what a lot of people probably like from Patrick Beverley when he was here is he kind of, he was crazy. He still is crazy. But I think, he kind of gives them that veteran presence that kind of helps the team be a little bit more mature moving forward and have a different mindset. Marcus Morris has been there, done that. Like, he's been on several playoff teams. He's played in a lot of meaningful games, and for a team that's still pretty young, considering, swap out Conley, Rudy. Those are some of the older guys. But I think bringing someone, I think Morris is like 34 years old. Just bringing somebody who is a veteran presence will kind of help this team as they kind of grow and mature to reach heights that they haven't before.
Did you happen to see, by the way, what Pat Bev did 2 nights ago? Pat Bev plays in a game against Denver. This is in Milwaukee. And he has a game the next day as well. So back-to-back for the Bucks. Pat Bev then drives to Chicago and joins the Barstool Sports free throw shooting contest. They had to make 41 shots in a row. Pat Bev went in the middle of the night to go do that with a game the next day after playing a game. He's crazy. That's just supporting Reggie's point. He's nuts.
The Bucks lost the next day by 26, in case anyone was wondering.
Pat Bev, 1 for 3.
I still miss
3
him.
points.
I still miss him.
I love that guy forever.
That's wild. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, Monte Morris quickly. We talked a little bit about this last week, so I don't know how much more I want to go into it. But like Monte Morris, what he's going to add off the bench is the ability. It's a little bit like the way I would describe it is there's ways about how he plays offensively that's a bit of a cross between Mike Conley and Jordan McLaughlin, if that makes sense. He's got a little bit even more of an in-between game. Like you don't see Conley shoot very many mid-range jumpers, but he obviously has the floater game, can finish with either hand in the paint. Not that he gets to the rim all that often anymore, but he's got the ability to do it, right? So when they acquired him last year, it was like, okay, he could shoot a floater. He could throw lobs to Rudy. And there's kind of that, what's he going to do when he turns the corner? And obviously Conley's been a lot more catch and shoot this year than he had been, even more so than when he was in Utah. But Monte Morris is more than happy to pull up from the elbow and shoot a jumper and play in the middle of the floor and provide some of that in-between playmaking that, McLaughlin doesn't do as much of, and he's got a little bit more size than McLaughlin. And to Jack's point about him being tried and true in the playoffs, and like everybody knows that. So all of those things together, plus the catch and shoot numbers for Monte Morris that are so good. I think his ability, not like they're going to ask him to run the offense or to create his own offense that much, but it's the fact that he can do it. Right. It's what they were hoping that they would get out of Shake Milton, but from somebody who really is a true point guard that could also catch and shoot at a better clip than Shake Milton can. So I think it's the right combination of those things. Plus, obviously, the playoff experience is great. And that is another edge he has over McLaughlin that obviously, Jordan doesn't have. And now you have the luxury of, if you need Jordan McLaughlin, you still have him. He's just, he's your third point guard. Related to Marcus Morris, yeah, I mean, I think Jack's point about catch and shoot is the biggest thing. I think he would be more, in a sense, Kyle Anderson minutes, and I think Jack mentioned this, but like, it depending on the matchup or depending on the night or depending on foul trouble, he can play some of those minutes and space the floor like, obviously Slow-Mo doesn't do and better than other guys can. The Wolves they're second in the NBA in overall 3-point shooting percentage as a team, and we're finally starting to see that volume come up. I think over the last 6 games, it's like the rate is like really where it should be. For the season, they're still just 20, I'm sorry. Actually, they're up to 17th now in 3-point rate. They're 24th in attempts per game. But if you look at 3-point rate, they're up to 17th. They've been bottom 10 basically all season. So we're starting to see them shoot more threes. They're second in percentage. And Marcus Morris, this season, he's been 43% catch and shoot in somewhat limited minutes with Philadelphia. Last year, he was 37%. Year before, 38%. 3 years ago in LA, he was 50% catch and shoot threes as a rotation player on a playoff team. So, he gives you that option off the bench as really probably a 10th or maybe even 11th guy, depending on the matchup, depending on the night, depending on who's resting, foul trouble, etc. It's a luxury. And it's great that the Wolves, Reggie brought up earlier the tweet about like the Wolves have bench guys who could play 30 minutes on other good playoff teams. Like, this is another example. The Wolves don't need the buyout market. It's not like the Lakers in 2004, like we need Karl Malone, we need Gary Payton because we don't have anyone else around Kobe and Shaq. This is the Wolves have a legit top 8, top 9, and they're looking for additional depth to an already deep team. And to find it with somebody that's got playoff experience and can add a little bit of a toughness and an edge to the team as well, I think would be a really, really good match.
Yeah, just the 2 for 2 straight up. You get rid of Shake and Troy Brown. You bring in Monte Morris and Marcus Morris. You've raised your floor considerably because you really can't have a worse go than Shake Milton did here. And Troy Brown had one moment, and that's it. And Monty and Marcus Morris are going to come in, and they're going to be probably pretty professional every time they hit the floor, and they're going to give you something. They're going to give you stability. And I think that's a big boost for the end of your bench, even if they aren't impactful every single night. There are going to be times when you have to play that card. Good stuff, gentlemen, on that. After this, we'll look ahead to All-Star Weekend featuring Cat and Ant. And then I challenge everybody to write a Valentine. We'll see if they came through. That's coming up on the Minnesota Basketball Party. And it's brought to you today by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. One more game until the All-Star break. Wolves play Portland on Thursday. If they win that game, they will be 39-16 through the first 55 with 27 games to go. They presently lead the West by 1 game over OKC and 2 games over the Nuggets and the Clippers. That's a pretty nice spread considering where they were a week ago. It looked like they were going to fall down to 4th, and now they've got a couple game edge on a couple of those primary competitors. So very good to see. Thanks to the everydayers for watching us today, by the way. And if you're watching on Locked On Sports Minnesota, you can check us out doing the Minnesota Football Party Mondays and Thursdays, Ron Johnson Show on Tuesdays. He had Vikings fullback CJ Ham on the show this past episode, and the roundtables on Friday with Reggie Wilson, Julia Daniels, Ron Johnson, and myself. Getting into All-Star Weekend, looking past the Portland game. On Saturday night, we've got Kat in the three-point contest trying to defend his title in his last appearance, and Ant in the skills competition. What are we most looking forward to of maybe not just those two events, but the whole weekend of festivities? Reggie, what do you got?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing the guys in the All-Star competitions. See if Cat can once again win it all. I thought it was pretty interesting when he won it all the first time. I was like, wow, okay. Like, you see him shoot threes and you're like, okay, yeah, he's pretty good at that. But I think it was interesting to see him win it. So it'd be interesting to see if he could do it again. But I think what's cool, especially if you're a Timberwolves fan, is just kind of seeing the Wolves' presence in Indy. Yeah, they got a couple All-Stars, but then, you got Finchie and the staff coaching the game. Like, the Wolves' imprint is all over the All-Star game. And so I think that's really cool when you just kind of think about it, and it's indicative of just the season that they've had and the work that they've done this season to put themselves in position to be not only relevant, but be, at the upper echelon of the NBA. And so I'm interested to see all those things at work, and, just kind of interested to see what type of crazy things Ant has in store, for the games. He's going to throw it off the backboard again and try to, do some razzle dazzle. He's going to pull up from the logo, those type of things. I'm interested to see.
Ben.
Yeah, I'm most excited about the three-point competition. I agree with Reggie. Like, Ant to the All-Star game is going to be great because I'm sure he'll get a little bit more run this year, and it'll be fun. But the three-point competition is always my favorite. I think it's got the best combination of, like, watching players that are the best in the world at their particular skill, watch them do what they do best on a big stage, and there's intrigue, there's suspense of, like, there's a little bit less of that usually with the dunk contest and certainly with the actual game. So this is a ton of fun. I wish Steph Curry was in it. That would make it even more fun. But it's a fun field too. And like looking at I'm going to do official predictions on Friday on Locked On Wolves. But looking at the odds on FanDuel, like Malik Beasley at plus 500 is not bad. I mean, he's somebody who can get hot, and it feels like he's going to try and take advantage of this stage. I was shocked. Karl-Anthony Towns is plus 850. He's got the second longest odds to win the 3-point competition. And 2 years ago, I actually placed a wager on Karl-Anthony Towns to win the 3-point competition because he had the longest odds. And I was like, this is crazy. Like people setting odds are they know what they're doing, but Cat, like, this is right in his wheelhouse. And I know the narrative of bigs and their shot taking longer and they get tired and whatever, but that's not how Cat shoots. He doesn't jump when he shoots. So I was like, I mean, this is like set shots for him all the way around the floor. So the only player with longer odds is Donovan Mitchell at plus 1100. Cat's at plus 850. I don't know. I mean, those to me seem like the two best bets. The favorite right now is Damian Lillard at plus 360, but Malik Beasley at plus 500 or Cat at plus 850. I just don't know how you win the competition. And he wasn't in it last year because he was hurt. And then you have the second longest odds the next time around. I think that's kind of crazy, but I'm looking forward to see if he can, I guess, quote unquote, defend his title from 2 years ago.
Jack, on last night's Locked On Wolves postcast, teased a big take about this weekend. I'm excited to hear it.
No, I don't know if it was a big take, but I think that Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be a lot of fun to watch in the 3-point contest. I personally don't think that Ant is going to take anything seriously. He's not going to take the skills challenge seriously at all. I don't think he's going to play very much in the All-Star game, and I don't think he's going to take it very seriously. It's just like not an environment that I think he really revels and enjoys being in, especially if his knee is bugging him a little bit. So I think Saturday night 3-point contest is going to be the best thing, I think, for the Timberwolves fans to watch. And Karl only has to compete with one other big. And I honestly think that bigs have a huge advantage in the 3-point contest. If, obviously they have to be a really good 3-point shooter to even be invited. But Markkanen is the only other guy, and he's got a longer loading shot than Karl does. But like small guards' legs get more tired in the 3-point contest because they have to jump, and Karl, like, his toes won't leave the ground when he's shooting all these shots. So I bet on Karl 2 years ago. I will certainly bet on Karl again this year. He made a lot of people a lot of money in that 3-point contest 2 years ago. So I think he'll do it again. But the thing I'm most looking forward to is just everybody kind of taking the Wolves a little bit more seriously, right? The Wolves haven't been on national TV. I don't think they've been readily available for a lot of other stars and, really relevant people around the league to take in and watch outside of games they're scouting or games they're playing in. But just have that, like Reggie said, that Wolves presence. All the coaches are there. Executives are going to be there. Obviously, Karl and Ant will be there. Who knows if any other Timberwolves players will show up and support them. But just to have kind of the Wolves be omnipresent at the whole weekend, I think it's going to be really important because that type of stuff, like a lot of fans probably won't think about it much, but that type of visibility in a setting like All-Star Weekend when all the biggest stars are there, all the power players, most important people in the league are there. All that stuff really does matter. And, obviously you can say, well, it doesn't matter if they don't do anything down the stretch in the playoffs. Well, yes, you're correct. That is true. But, it's a small win for sure. And one that I think is going to be really important is, you get LeBron in the huddle. Who knows? The Wolves have some second round picks. Maybe they can trade up, get a first, draft Bronny James, and have a little test run of Mr. LeBron here, playing with his future coach Chris Finch. So we'll see.
Yeah, the West is interesting from a established franchise standpoint because, like, all the stars, the teams that we like to, and national media probably more so likes to talk about, are jockeying for play-in position. Steph, LeBron, Luka, Durant, and then at the top you've got OKC, you've got Minnesota, you've got Denver, who's a champion, but they're also Denver. And right now the Wolves are experiencing the same thing they did last year. Nobody respected Denver because nobody watched Denver. The Clippers are probably the most star-studded at the top of the West, but they're also not the Lakers. So it is like there's a lot of teams saying, look at me, respect me. And the Wolves are definitely in that mix as well. It's Valentine's Day, guys. Happy Valentine's Day. whether you celebrate or not. I challenged this group to write a Wolves Valentine to close out the show. Who understood the assignment here? Who's gonna put their poetry skills to the test?
I got a good one.
All right, Ben.
I feel really confident about this.
Hold on, let me find some music. I know we've got some options down here. Let me just give me a second.
Thank God Ron's not here. Otherwise, he'd be having a field day with the music.
I didn't practice my delivery. Now I'm nervous about
feeding the ducks. These are the names of these. That's that's a little bit too urban. Oh, that's nice.
That's good. Yeah. Okay.
That's really nice. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Roses are red. Violets are blue. This is the year the Timberwolves get past round 2.
Ooh, very nice. Snaps.
It could be round 1 too, because they've only done that once. But we'll go with round 2 for Rudy. Right?
Rhyming.
The first time that Rudy gets past round 2.
Yeah, you got to rhyme too.
Right.
Who else is composed? A little.
I've got one. If we have time.
Yep, we do.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Connolly is cooking, and he'll pull a heist on you.
And which Conley? We don't know. Probably Tim, but double meaning there.
I tweeted this the other night. Last year, they've sent out D'Lo, Prince, 3 second-round picks. They've brought in Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Leonard Miller, Monte Morris with all of that stuff. So
he's cooking. Reggie, do you have any poetry for us?
Oh, mine is not as good as these guys, but roses are red, violets are blue. The Wolves are gonna win by throwing it up to Big Roo.
Oh,
that's all I got.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's pretty good.
All I
got. All right. I'll be the anchor leg. This is a 2-stanza poem. Roses are red. The Thunder are a threat. Taking SGA for MVP is a pretty good bet. But as the playoffs come round and winter thaws, the Wolves have the superior family member. His name is Nah.
It was good.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. The Minnesota Basketball Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota, Locked On Wolves audio feed. For Ben Beek and Locked On Wolves, Jack Borman. Let's turn this off. Jack Borman, Canis Hoopus, Reggie Wilson, Care 11. I'm Sam Ekstrom. Tune into the Minnesota Football Party tomorrow and the Roundtable on Friday. Please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and listening. See you next week.